Hey guys, so I just recorded a 40-minute long analysis of this TvT between Major and Taeja about how Taeja's biotank play was able to decimate Major's solid mech play. And unfortunately, about 10 minutes in, the audio just went to shit and I couldn't be heard anymore. And it was just inaudible, so I have to redo the whole thing again. So, without further ado, let the game begin. There we go. We just make sure everything's... Yep. So, we have Taeja in this position and Major in the as the blue Terran. And this was played at WCS AM round of 32. Taeja ends up winning this game. He has phenomenal bio tank play, and I'm going to elaborate on what he did and how he set himself up for the mid to late game that allowed him to just completely A-move over Major's army. It really made him look pretty silly because of how one-sided it was, but it was a lot of preparation on Taeja's part that allowed him to do that in the first place. Now Taeja ends up opening up for a 12 racks into 15 gas expand. I also like to call it a reactor marine expand because you make two marines and then you make a reactor and you expand, and then you're pretty safe because then you make four more marines, two more in or two groups of two, and that's about the time when the factory finishes, and then you switch it over to your racks on the reactor, and then you start making Hellions. And what the Hellions do is they keep you safe from any early game pressure. They're basically like siege tanks, except better, because siege tanks are very immobile, but Hellions are very, very mobile. So they are very good at defending your base. And they're a lot cheaper too. As we can see, both players are scouting at the same time. Taeja is scouting, I believe he scouts, well, when I do this build, I scout at 13. I just rally my 13th SCV to the other base. And this basically lets you see the gas timing and if there's a proxy racks or not. So what Taeja sees here is he sees he should have okay, good. So I was gonna say he made a mistake by not seeing the marine, but he does see the marine and he does see gas taken. So it's kind of weird because it's not a gas first build. It was a 12 or 13 gas. Taeja knows that because it was also not a 15 gas, because otherwise it would have been the same time as his gas. So what Taeja does here, he's going to keep the watchtower. I don't understand completely why he does that. I guess it's for if there's going to be a Reaper coming across the map, or if there's going to be Hellions coming across the map. Because Major could also just make a reactor and make a factory and then make Hellions. But he also does, this is the other possibility, and he ends up doing it. It is a 1 Rax Reaper expand, and you poke with 1 SCV, 1 Reaper, and 1 Marine. And Taeja ends up losing this Marine. It looks kind of like a big deal, but it really isn't. I'm pretty sure Taeja knew he was going to lose that Marine anyways. And he also is able to save that SCV because of the Marine being at the watchtower. So I guess it's not a completely bad decision by Taeja to leave his Marine at the watchtower like that, but at the same time I don't understand 100% completely why he does it. So both players are going to open up in a pretty economic build. This is just Major being a little bit cute and applying some pressure. It's very important not to lose too much here because they're trading evenly so far, and that's okay. But if Major somehow trades better than Taeja or Taeja than Major, then one of them can be slightly behind for the pressure that comes next. So basically, these players are just, they know that there's no aggressive gas timings coming because they each scouted each other's gas timings, so there's no Banshee, there's no Cloak Banshee expand or anything like that that Taeja has to worry about. So you don't need to save up scans immediately. And he's also making a tech lab, and he's also getting his second gas, so he's going to be able, and he's making a Viking too, so he's going to be able to get that Raven out really fast, so he doesn't need to save scans in the first place. He'll have enough time to make an engineering bay, and then turrets if need be, if he scouts that Major's going Banshees. And what Taeja does here, he makes, I believe, 4 Hellions. You can see on the minimap right there that they're moving out to take the watchtower. They're going to just poke a little bit. They're going to take a little bit of damage because Major's Hellions are in a slightly better position and they're forced to retreat. But that's alright. So Taeja knows that Major is doing a variation of a Reaper Hellion build with Taeja's Hellions, so Major can either go into Mech or Bio from this, and Taeja can either go into Mech or Bio from this after his 4 initial Hellions. So what Taeja does now, he's going to make an engineering bay because he needs to have an engineering bay in case of possible Banshees. The reason why you need turrets against Banshees is because you don't know how many Banshees your opponent is going to make. So as soon as you know that your opponent is going to make Banshees or is making or has made a Banshee, like you see a Banshee on the map, you have to make a turret in your main and your natural and prepare, because if you can't just rely on a Raven to be safe, because if Major makes like more than one Banshee and he attacks in the main and in the natural at the same time, then that's very bad for Taeja if he doesn't have any turrets, because the Raven's going to be spread thin. But if you have turrets, then that can be avoided very easily. And it makes the Banshee investment, it pays off a lot more for Taeja than it does for Major. So Taeja ends up scanning here, and he starts... I'm kind of confused why he makes the turret so fast. Alright, so he starts making the turret now. I don't believe he's seen... Yeah, he's making one in his main, and I don't believe he has seen anything. So I guess it's just a turret to be safe for any... Honestly, I'm just going to say he makes the turret as soon as he scans. He's going to make both turrets. So he knows that Cloak Banshee is coming, so that's why he's going to make the turrets. And he's also getting a Raven out as well. So one important thing to highlight is that Major has this rat pack of Hellions. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 Hellions, and these Hellions are able to exert map control for Major. And what that does... Sorry, I was just checking the mic volume. I can hear myself breathing. Hopefully it's not too annoying. But basically what Major wants to do with these Hellions is to control the watchtower and other areas of the map so that Taeja is forced to stay inside of his base. And Taeja, he sees Major's abnormally large Hellion force. If you're going biotank like Taeja is, you only make 4 to 6 maximum before you start switching into... You like switch your racks onto the reactor and you make a tech lab on the factory. Or you switch it with the one on the starport, and then you start making biotank. But Taeja here, he does a very intelligent thing. Once he sees that Major has 8 Hellions, it's a 99% chance that he's going to be doing a mech build. So what Taeja does is he makes one Banshee without Cloak to deal with these Hellions. And what these Hellions are for is to keep map control and keep the watchtower and prevent Taeja from going out of his base. And Major knows that, and that's why he's taking his third base so far out, because he knows he has the map control. But Taeja, on the other hand, he gets that one single Banshee to contest these Hellions. And another smart thing about getting this Banshee is because he scanned at 8 minutes and he saw the starport with a tech lab and Cloak being researched, he knew that Major was investing a lot into his Banshees. So he knew that the starport wasn't going to be used for Vikings or medvacs anytime soon. So getting one Banshee would not easily be contested. In other words, Major would not have a large enough Viking force to fight it off, or to really make it a bad investment on Taeja's part. And he only makes one without Cloak, so it's very, very good. And in the future, he uses the Banshee as a spotter as well. He does no economic damage with it. Like, it's very rare to see a Banshee being made with the purpose of no economic damage in mind, but instead to shoo away the Hellions and try to maintain some sort of map control. So he's able to deny the watchtower from Major and even pick off a Hellion, which is pretty great, because that's one less Hellion that's going to be able to attack you later on when the Hellion force starts roaming around. So as we can see here on the production tab, both players are getting a third command center. Major knows he has map control, and like I said earlier, he's going to be getting his third command center on the low ground. But I want to talk more about Taeja. But even though I want to talk more about Taeja, I do want to explain the basic thought process of Major's build, so that Taeja's build makes more sense on how he tailors it to counter Major's build specifically. So what's going on right now is that Taeja is... Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure that everything's good. I don't want to remake this whole entire thing again. So what's going on right now is Taeja's building a third command center. He knows he's fairly safe because Major did get a Banshee and he has a bunch of Hellions. He's going Hellion Banshee, and that is 100% a mech build. So he has no map control. He can either throw down a bunch more barracks, or he can throw down a third CC and then his production. And by throwing down the third CC and then the production, Taeja is going to be in a very defensive spot for most of the game. It's just a very big powering phase, and he's getting stim and +1 attack in preparation for the mid to late game. Now this Banshee is just going around. I think it's going around just to get a little bit more information. Like if Major has a third base, what kind of unit composition he has. And Major's Hellion Force, it's just sitting, it has complete map control. And I'm constantly stressing map control because in TvT, map control and positioning, which is a result of good map control, is what lets you win games. And it's what lets Taeja take this game so decisively. So this Banshee, I guess it didn't even poke. It didn't even poke to the third base. It might have. I wasn't keeping track of it. But it's just flying around and it's looking for the Hellion Force, and it just wants to shoo the Hellions away so that Major is restricted to where exactly he can go. Like the Banshee and the Raven Viking Force that was chasing Major's Banshee is zoning out this area where my mouse is, so that Taeja can take his third base. And as you can see, his siege tanks in defensive positioning to defend his natural against Hellion attacks, and he also has a sizable Bioforce as well. And he's gonna make a he makes a wall there too. It was very briefly showed upon. Alright, so now this is what Taeja's mid-game infrastructure looks like. As he's taking his third base, he's starting to power up all his buildings. He has 5 barracks. He can make 4 Marines and 3 Marauders. This is a tech lab that's being built. So it's a pretty sizable mid-game production. But it hasn't kicked in just yet, so that's why he wants to be on the defensive. And Major also, all of his units besides his Hellions are on this side of the map because he is going to be in a defensive posture. Excuse me. As you can see on the production tab, he's starting his upgrades. He is at 0-0 right now. He's increasing his siege tank count. He is adding more factories. So he's also in a similar position as Taeja, and he wants to power up so that he can set himself up in the mid to late game to take a to be able to take a 4th base and be able to support the mech economy, because mech is not cheap, and gas, the 4th base gas, is very, very important. Now, what Major is doing with his Hellions right now, it's from the 11 to 13 minute mark, is he's going to be poking around Taeja's base to check for any defensive weaknesses. If he can kill any SCVs, if Taeja takes any economic damage right here, he's going to be in a lot of trouble because he does not want to be slowed down. It's very hard, it's very difficult to play versus mech from when you're behind. You really have to win a battle decisively, and that gets really hard because you have less units, you have less economy. Everything just snowballs versus mech. So that's why he's in such a Taeja's in such a defensive position, and he doesn't want to take any economic damage. And that's why Major is looking for that chance to deal economic damage and make the game significantly easier for him. But Taeja's units are in position. Major does not get that chance. And something I like, that Banshee that was used earlier on that was shooing away the Hellions from the watchtower and also zoning out the bottom right side of the map for Taeja to take his 3rd base. And it's still doing its job. It's over here, it's giving vision to one of the possible attack paths of the Hellions, and what it does is it limits Major in his attack path. Otherwise, he doesn't want to use the Hellions and be scouted, because he went in such an odd way, and Taeja had a Banshee over here to spot. Taeja knew that he wasn't going to be flanked by any units anytime soon, so that's why he moved. That's why he was able to stim and kill so many Hellions, and that was not a very good trade for Major, even though supplies are still very even. So it's still a very even game. Oh, and I mentioned it in my other cast. I didn't mention it here yet, so I'll mention it now. So Taeja's Hellion force, the 4 initial Hellions he made to defend against any possible early game aggression. Now that he knows that Major is going Mech and that Taeja himself is going Biotank, these Hellions are no longer useful. So the most useful thing you can do with these Hellions is to sack them into the third base and try to get as many SCV kills as possible, because their use has expired and they're not obsolete, and it wouldn't make sense to save the Hellions to be a part of your Biotank force. There's just no symmetry with the units, and the Hellions are paying for themselves when they're able to get kills like this. Like, they get 5, 6, 7 SCV kills for units that no longer serve an important purpose in this game. And Taeja's also doing that at the same time he's landing his third base. So he's putting a bit of pressure on Major's side of the map. I believe it's the first time he's actually gone onto Major's side of the map. Like, as we can see now, Major still has the Watchtower, he has his Hellion Force, he has complete map control, so Taeja doesn't really get a chance to be on Major's side of the map, except for that Hellion Force, which is fast enough, because they're as fast as Hellions, to get on the other side of the map. And so that was just a very good move by Taeja. When he realizes that those units no longer are important to his endgame plan, which is to surround Major's army and catch him out of position, and so their best use is to try to get as many SCV kills as possible, and also to cover him while he takes his third base. So as we can see here, Taeja's in a completely defensive position because he wants his third base economy to be safe and secure. Has that I believe it was 4 Marine production and 3 Marauder production. And he's also adding 3 more barracks right now, and he has double upgrades going. Combat shields is almost done. So Taeja's been powering up hard this entire time. That's why his units are so defensive, because he doesn't want to take any economic damage from these Hellions, and he just wants to be able to power up to get a large army as fast as possible. Now, something cool we see here, this little Bioforce of Taeja, he's poking out to look for the Hellions, so that's why he takes this odd path, and then he's gonna go towards the Watchtower and start to clear out Major's map control and his vision. And what Major does here, let me just rewind that a little bit. What Major does here is he sends 1 Hellion, that 1 Hellion right there. You can see it go into the third base. And what that Hellion is doing is it's checking to see where Taeja's army is. And so that Hellion sees 3 unsieged tanks and a bunch of Marines. It's not quite a small enough force for him to run his Hellions in, because Taeja does have stim, he's shown that earlier. But so it's not enough for him to run his units in and try to like get some free SCV kills. So that's why he doesn't do it immediately, but his Hellions are positioned so that when Taeja does, like, Taeja has his tanks unsieged right now, so that suggests to Major that he's going to be moving his army relatively soon. And if he doesn't leave enough units behind, these Hellions are going to be able to do some good economic damage. And Major is just waiting for Taeja to start moving out of position so he can catch him with his pants down. And he sees that here. He has vision of the Watchtower, and he sees some of Taeja's units going into the range of the Watchtower and away from defending the third base. And so that's when he goes in with his Hellions, but he also scans and he sees that Taeja still has the majority of his army at his third, so he's not able to do any damage. And the Banshee is still doing a very good job. It's been able to kill, like, I think at least 4 Hellions this entire time. and it doesn't even have cloak, so it's definitely well worth this investment. Now, it's about 14 minutes into the game, and this is the time that Taeja first takes his first steps onto Major's side of the map. This is very important because it represents a shift in Taeja's role of what he needs to do to accomplish things, or to win the game. Not accomplish. What he needs to accomplish to win the game. There we go. Let me just take a drink of water. Alright, so this Bioforce, there's a small Bioforce here that was able to clear out the watchtower and give Taeja some map control, and his other force that was at his third base defending is now being defended. His third base is now being defended by the reinforcements coming in from his 8 racks production and his 1 factory and 2 star reactor starport production. So he moves his army from his third base to the fourth base so that he can start his fourth base at the fourth base location and to zone out the Hellions over here. Because Major's been on this side of the map with the Hellions the entire game, and now Taeja's army is starting to zone it out. And I really like what Taeja does here. He scans, he sees that Major doesn't have his siege tanks positioned. It's not a bad part by Major's call, because he has a sensor tower, so he can see when units are going to start coming in, or like from which angle units are going to come in from, so he can siege his tanks at the best possible angle. That's why his tanks are unsieged right now. But Taeja, intelligently, he stims right outside of the range of the sensor tower, and then he scans right inside to see if Major has his pants, down, which he does. And as a result, this small contingency of units is able to pick off 1, 2, 3 siege tanks for, I believe, 1 Marauder and 2 Marines. That's a fantastic trade for Taeja. And it's just something that comes with experience that you know that you can get away with. And he even scanned to be safe, so it wasn't very risky at all. And now that Taeja's army at the fourth base has been able to clear out any possible Hellion force that Major could have had over there, well, he obviously didn't check the back corridor, but he has some basic zoning going on into potential run-by attack paths that the Hellions can use. And so Taeja is going to, as soon as he starts his fourth base, he's going to start moving out. And this is like the first time that his army is actually going to be on the other side of the map. And this marks the start of the aggression that spells the beginning of the end for Major. This is where Taeja starts to orchestrate a very, very complicated attack based on his army movement patterns. See, he is crossing the map. He has control of the watchtower now. And the reason why he keeps his army here rather than at the watchtower is so that he can poke into the third base of Major or threaten the natural base of Major. Either one is possible. Major has a sensor tower to figure it out which way it's going to go, but just the fact that he is able to directly threaten 2 areas by having his army in one position is why he keeps his army there. Now Major's going to retake the watchtower, and Taeja, alright, so he stims his army as soon as, like, his army is also right almost outside of the range of the watchtower. So Major realizes that the watchtower is very important, because if he wants to take a fourth base at the gold base location, which he does, then he's going to want control of the watchtower, because having control of the watchtower is going to make it significantly easier for him to obtain that very, very important fourth base and get those 2 extra gas geysers mining. So Taeja knows that he can get these Hellions because these Hellions are now slightly out of position. This is a very good pick-off for Taeja. He ends up trapping Major's Hellions. Major could have, in hindsight, run over here and survive with a few Hellions, but now but instead he wanted to try to turn around and maybe deal some economic damage, but Taeja came from both sides of the watchtowers and was able to sandwich Major's Hellions. So Taeja so far has been able to pick off that group of Hellions and about 3 siege tanks for very little loss. And Major scans the watchtower now because he knows that it's very important, and it's also a potential location to load up medvacs and to go into the main. As we can see on the minimap, there's a bunch of little dots there, and what they are missile turrets. Major starts to add them right now. Well, a little bit sooner. But yeah, so now that Taeja is starting to be in a very aggressive position, he's taking an aggressive stance on Major's side of the map. Major's going to be starting to add missile turrets for potential doom drops, because a doom drop will catch a meching player out of position, and that's not a good place to be with your pants down. So that's why he's starting missile turrets right now, because Taeja is in a very good spot to start doom dropping. And what Taeja is also doing, he's being very active around the map, but he's doing very calculated, very precise army movements. What he's going to do now is he's going to pick up units into those 5 medvacs and start moving them around, and what that does is split up his army in half. He's going to be able to pressure both of Major's potential 4th bases. He knows that Major is too good of a player not to have defense up in his main to do a doom drop there and catch him out of position, so Taeja needs to think a little bit harder on how he's going to be able to catch Major's mech army out of position. And the first step to doing this is to split his army up into 2 different contingencies. One of the 5 medvacs and the others of a little small ground force. Now, what Taeja is going to do now, he's going to pressure both sides of Major's side of the map, because he doesn't know which side Major or which 4th base Major is going to take. So he's going to poke up here, and he sees no 4th base, so he's going to stay right outside there. And his 5 medvacs are right over here, and they're going to start to pressure this 4th base area over there. And as we can see, he does have the watchtower, so when Major moves his SCVs to the gold expansion, as you can see over there very slightly on the minimap, and he also starts to build a sensor tower and a missile turret, I believe, that is all within range of the watchtower. So Taeja now knows that Major is going to be taking a 4th base at the gold base. And so what his plan now is to do, what his plan now is to deny Major's 4th base, prevent him from taking that 7th and 8th gas that makes Mech sustainable in the late game, and also a possible Sky Terran transition. And on top of this, he also takes a base at the gold 5th, because he knows that if he's going to be pressuring Major's 4th base and he's going to have army there, it's also going to, even though it's going to be an aggressive stance toward Major, it also acts as a double-edged sword for Taeja, and it allows him to defend this 5th base location as well. So that's why he's taking that 5th base over there instead of next to the 4th base. So now Taeja is able to drop half of his army over here and deny Major's 4th base. Now Major is in a lot of trouble here, because he needs a 4th base to be able to sustain this mech composition that he's building. On top of that, Taeja's also on 4 bases. He's taking his 5th base right now. So Major really needs to just get a 4th base in general to be able to keep up economically with Taeja. Otherwise, Taeja is going to be able to make very cost-efficient trades in ratio to his economy. So this doom drop right here, I guess I shouldn't really call it a doom drop. This half of Taeja's army right here is now in Major's 4th base, and Major is panicking. As we can see here, his army is, and Major doesn't know that Taeja's other half of the army is over here. Taeja never showed his army in range of the sensor tower. Let me just rewind that really quickly to re-emphasize the point. So Taeja pokes up, He has vision of the 4th base over there. He knows that Major isn't taking a 4th base, so he moves back. He doesn't go in range as a sensor tower because he doesn't want Major to know where his army is. Now, he's going to move into the area of the scan right there ever so slightly, so Major's going to move his army there because he knows that Taeja is right outside of the watchtower. So what Taeja does now is he's going to drop this part of the army, and now Major's army is out of position. See, it's just moving in one big blob, and Taeja has two little armies, even though they're still with sieged up tanks and this kind of a positioning with the choke over here. Major can't attack into this, so this base is no longer usable for Major. And Major, in a fair fight on open ground, Major's entire army would be able to crush half of Taeja's army any day, but because of his positioning, Taeja is able to camp up over here. And so Major is in a bit of trouble now. He ends up sieging up here, but I think that's kind of a panic mode because he scans, he sees 2 siege tanks, and he sees a bunch of bio, so he can't just attack move into that choke without taking a very bad trade. And what Taeja's going to do now is he's going to set up for his endgame move, which is to catch Major out of position and to attack his main army from multiple fronts. So Taeja now, he's stepping into the watchtower on purpose to show that his army is going to pressure Major's 3rd base. And this makes Major move his entire army all the way back to the 3rd. So this is Major's vision right now, and at this point in the game, Major sees that Taeja's army is here within range of the sensor tower, denying his 4th base, and that Taeja's other half of the army is over here, pressuring his 3rd base, and also in range of the sensor tower. Taeja is very purposefully in range of the sensor tower because he doesn't care that Major knows he's there. He wants Major to know that Taeja is on both sides, pressuring him, and he really wants Major to start sweating. So Major's in a bit of trouble now. He doesn't know exactly what to do. His 4th base is being denied. His army is... He can't attack either one, because if he chases the army that's pressuring the 3rd, he's going to be out of position for maybe if this force tries to swing in and attack. But he also can't leave that force there because he wanted to take the gold base as a 4th base. So this is where Taeja pretty much performs the one fell swoop that is going to end the game. Now notice the radius of these double scans right here. These are both Taeja's scans. So he's scanning like two screen views to find out exactly where Major's army is, and the second scan is able to see Major's entire army. Even though Taeja doesn't know it's his entire army, he knows it's the majority of his army. And what this army did here, that even though it denied Major's 4th base, it also put Taeja in a advantageous positional position. Huh. That's an interesting thing to say. But yeah, so Taeja, he is pressuring the 3rd, he's denying the 4th. Both of these armies are also denying 4th bases at both possible locations. So since there's no 4th base over here, Taeja's army does the next thing. He pressures the 3rd base. So now Major, he doesn't really know what to do. His army is kind of out of position. I don't quite understand what he wants to do right here. He's just moving around. And now this is where Taeja just performs a phenomenal feat of, I guess, preparation and planning and execution. So as we can see here, this Bioforce is getting ready to move, stims in, and Taeja's other army is going to stim in as well. And then his reinforcements are also stimming in from a 3rd angle. So Taeja is attacking from 3 spots, and Major is caught with his pants down. And this is the kind of engagement that Taeja wanted, so that he could win very, very, very convincingly, and just win the fight convincingly and end up taking the game. So let me just put that in fast motion, what's going on here. I won't pause it, and then I'll do it one more time and pause it to explain one more time what's going on. So Major's out here. He's kind of in a bad position already, and he realizes that, but it's already too late. Taeja's stimming in. Major... Oh, I said I wouldn't pause it, but whatever. Major is just caught in a bad position. His siege tanks aren't sieged. His units aren't split up properly. I'll do that. I'm sorry, I paused it. I won't pause it this time. There we go. Just a beautiful, beautiful, almost a 360-degree surround by Taeja. And as you can see, it just crushes Major's army because Major was caught out of position, and Taeja set himself up for a three-pronged attack by splitting his army up into two different armies and pressuring both possible fourth base locations of Major. And then, after denying Major's fourth base, squashes Major's army. So this is when he starts to split it up to defend his, or to attack both of Major's potential fourth bases. And just checking to make sure everything's recording good. Everything looks to be recording well. And now this is Major's sorry about that. Getting tired. So this is the final battle. This is what Taeja's doing right now. Like, see this gigantic arc? These are Taeja's reinforcements meeting up with his second army. And Taeja scans over here. He sees that Major's army is out of position, which is kind of weird. Like, this is definitely a mistake on Major's part, I think. I think Major wanted to chase this army down here and try to kill it off. That way this army would be isolated at the fourth base. I think that's what his decision making was. But as we can see here, Taeja scans. He sees that Major's army is unsieged and out of position, so he immediately stims he stims right here. Like, his Bioforce is miles away from Major's mech army, but he stims from all sides extremely fast in this circle of radius just to be able to catch Major with his pants down and catch him by surprise. That's why he stims so far away. And it works because, as you can see here, he hurriedly puts down the two PDDs. It's a very, very desperate attempt. And then he sieges up. He does that as quick as possible, but the Hellbats, there's a lot of things that he just didn't prepare for. The Hellbats are just all out of position, so this entire force is getting free shots on Major's back half of the army, which is tanks, and you want the Hellbats to tank damage while the tanks deal damage. And that's how Taeja's just able to tear Major apart, because he splits Major's army up and he was able to hit from a three-pronged attack. I'm just going to show it one more time because of how exceptional it looks. So there's one angle, and then there's the second angle, and there's the third angle from all of Taeja's reinforcements. And that was all based off of a scan seeing Major's army out of position. That Taeja was able to take advantage of that and end up winning the game. Yeah, and Major just has nothing left because he got crushed in that fight. And we'll see the GG right now. So I hope that was informative. And basically, to recap what happened, this is Taeja playing a Reactor Marine expand into getting a couple Hellions, and then he transitions into a 3 command center Marine tank macro build, and he plays against Major, who goes for a macro mech build. So this is the classic Marine tank versus mech build, or versus mech game, and Taeja ends up doing very well because he is able to catch Major out of position. He sets himself up brilliantly to be able to catch Major out of position by moving his army into multiple locations that serve dual purposes. It lets you deny the Meching Terran's fourth base, and to also set up for a possible flank. So that's the end of this analysis. If you guys have any VODs that you want me to go over, or you have any questions, feel free to post them and I'll get to them when my time allows. Alright.